the show. Happy Monday. It is so good to be back. As you guys know, I lost my voice, so we weren't here on Friday. We weren't here on Saturday, but we're back on Monday. My voice is still a little rough, but we're gonna get through this. The gods took my voice right as the presidential debate happened. I was sitting there watching it, not even being able to speak about what I was watching. And you know what? I was right there with Joe Biden, not being able to speak during the presidential debate. Unbelievable, the things that I witnessed with my own two eyes, and I couldn't come here and talk about it with you guys on the show. So we're going to do a little bit of debate coverage today. We're also going to talk about the BET Awards, where Taraji P. Henson went a little crazy, warning people about the MAGA Republicans and Project 2025, which you guys have been asking me to speak about anyway. So we're going to get to that today and do a little background on Miss Taraji P. Henson, because we need to be reminded who this woman is before we take her advice. Plus, it is July 1st today, which means Pride Month has come to a close, but we have some crazy pride parades that happened, I don't know, over the weekend with some wild footage. I don't even know if I can show you it on this program because of how crazy it actually is, but we'll get there and have a general discussion about how people are feeling about Pride these days now that it's come to a close. And before we get to all these stories, of course, we got Taylor in Nashville.
Yes, thank God we survived the Pride Month, but I think all of us were probably speechless when we were watching the two old men argue about who's got the better golf handicap in what was supposed to be a presidential debate. So I think we were all on the same page there with you, at least, and that much.
Dude, that was nuts to watch. It was just crazy. I didn't know what I thought was going to come up, how I thought things were going to go. I thought Biden was going to have a little bit of a struggle session out there on the stage, and he confirmed did, but we're going to unpack that in just a little bit. First off, let's start off with the BET Awards. You know, Black Entertainment, that whole channel that you have on your TV, that is basically a segregated channel dedicated to Black people and Black entertainment, which is weird. I don't know if we need to go there on today's program. You guys know how I feel about things like BET, but nonetheless, it exists, and every year they do their BET Awards to shout out people in the Black space and the Black culture. And Taraji P. Henson was at the forefront of the BET Awards, hosting, running around, emceeing, and she had many a cringeworthy moment that night. We're going to start off with one featuring none other than Kamala Harris. We share names somewhat, unfortunately, where they're trying to talk to people about what's to come, what we're fighting, how to fight for freedom and equality in a little skit that they put together. Kamala Harris struggles to attach herself to the Black community and to really speak to them, and she gives it her best attempt in this skit. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see if it speaks to us whatsoever. Okay. Baby girl, please. We need to pause. There's so much to unpack here. This is like 57 seconds of terror and torture, but let's get into it. First of all, let me remind you that Taraji P. Henson is an award-winning actress. I want to know, a B-list celebrity Taraji P. Henson is. She's known for being in the show Power. She's known for Hidden Figures. Really, are you, Taraji? Are you worried about the election? She's supposed to be a top-tier actress, and this is what she's giving in this video. But I'm not even going to focus on Taraji right now. I'm going to focus on Kamala Harris, who is telling us that, you know, I'm out here in these streets. Where? What streets are you out on, Kamala Harris? Please explain that to me. And you know she's trying to do like this Black speak to Black people because she's on BET. So she's gonna try to code switch. But in order to code switch, you have to know the code. You can't just throw out slang and try to put on this Black scent for people so that they feel connected to you. And you can feel that that's what Kamala Harris is doing in this video, and it just doesn't work for me. And then, of course, she uses this Kendrick Lamar reference in saying, oh, you know, these extremists, they're not like us. And for those of you that don't know, Kendrick and Drake had some beef, two very well-known rappers, and Kendrick releases a song called Not Like Us, and everybody's saying, oh, they not like us all the time in all their different references and stuff, and it's become sort of like a colloquial phrase that people are using. So now she's using that to refer to Republicans and extremists who are trying to take people's rights away. Be so for real right now. I'll be shocked if Kamala Harris has even heard the song Not Like Us outside of Taraji P. Henson's rewritten version of it that she performed at the BET Awards. And you know that they just wrote together this Black script for Kamala Harris to read out. And this is her best version of appealing to the Black community and to Black culture, because she's fighting for freedom and equality, which is so funny because, like, notedly, right, the black community is not too fond of things like LGBTQ rights and the trans community and gay this and love is love and everything like that. But we're trying to package that on the BET Awards as if that's the reality. It's far from the reality within the black community, but more so than that. This is just so cringe. And I don't imagine that it's very motivating to people watching, that they're going to go out and, you know, add some extra energy to their ballot or to their polling station because they saw Kamala Harris on the BET Awards. I don't think so.
And what a contrast too to that video that we watched last week of the guy who did the street interviews in Compton and was asking people like Biden or Trump, and basically to a man, every person was like, "Oh yeah, Trump's my guy.
Right.
This stuff's crazy with Biden. They're lying to us about all this stuff. My life's worse, etc." But yeah, my goodness, that's the skit reminded me of like the days, the PragerU days when we'd make those cringy TikTok skits. But at least those were like self-aware to where we knew they were bad, and it's almost better if the acting is bad because it shows that you're not taking it seriously. But for this award-winning actress and Kamala Harris to clearly be like trying to sell us on this sort of skit on national television and it just falling so flat, it's pretty rough. And it also speaks to Kamala's unique inability to to connect not just with the black community, but with Americans in general, with human beings in general. I think there's a reason why they're still trying to trot out Biden as the Weekend at Bernie's president, even when the alternative is a much younger person who fits the DEI quota of, you know, female and black and all this. Mm-hmm. And yet they're terrified of running her because her likability, her relatability is so low, even compared to the corpse that is Joe Biden.
Yeah, she's just not a likable individual. I'm sorry, Kamala Harris. I know, you know, there are some people out there that like her. I don't know. I feel like right and left, nobody's really vibing with Kamala Harris. But let's talk about the Taraji P. Henson aspect of it all. Because as I said, she was emceeing at the BET Awards, and she used this opportunity to really talk to the black community about the energy that they should have towards voting. And we're not even going to get into all the different attacks that they've launched on the right extremists, saying that we're coming after voting, we're coming after people's right to love. I don't even know what they're talking about in the video we just watched. But let's hear from Taraji P. Henson as she brings up Project 2025, which we will also get into, in her appeal to the viewers watching to get them out there to vote. Let's hear it. The assumption that everybody in the room listening to her right now is Democrat and agrees with what she's saying is crazy to me, because you can see there's a lot of like half clapping back in the crowd. I imagine there's a lot of people who do not care at all for what Taraji P. Henson has to say on where they should vote, who they should vote for, all these different claims she's making about homelessness now being illegal and the fact that they're going to get drafted first, which I'm assuming she's saying that if there is a draft that is instated, black people are just going to get drafted first, which what? Who in their right mind thinks that that's actually going to happen, that black people are going to get drafted first if there's a draft in the United States? So she's going off on this tangent. And of course, she says this is a very real problem. They're coming after us as human beings. Project 2025 is very much real. So I'm like, okay, we got to pull up this Project 2025 website and check out what everybody's getting their little knickers in a twist over. And here's the website. We'll pull it up. We'll read a little bit for you. Here's the Project 2025 website. Building now for a conservative victory through policy, personnel, and training. And it says here, it's not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we're going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next conservative administration. This is the goal of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project. Now, switch this out. Switch conservative out for Democrats, switch the radical left out for the radical right, and read this again. It's not enough for Democrats to win elections. If we're going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical right, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place, ready to carry this agenda out on day one of the next Democrat administration. Does that sound crazy at all to you? Does that sound radical at all to you? Does that sound like a far-right group that's going to take over the government with fascism? And when I switch out the different words, does it sound like a far-left group that's going to take over the country with their own form of fascism? No. It sounds like normal campaigning. It sounds like normal strategy and agenda when it comes to politics and getting the right candidates in place. I don't know why everybody's freaking out over this Project 2025 thing. And now everybody is cheering on Taraji P. Henson, saying, oh my gosh, Taraji P. Henson is so wonderful for calling out Project 2025. This is some sort of like secretive right-wing conspiracy where they're working on taking over the government and making it some sort of fascist dictatorship. Meanwhile, their website is right here for public viewing. You can go and read every single thing that they're advocating for in terms of policy, personnel, training, their playbook. They have a playbook that you can download onto your computer and read word for word exactly what the 4 pillars of their plan are. And if you read through these pillars, it is like the most benign shit I've ever read in my life. Pillar 1, it says, puts in place a consensus view on how major federal agencies must be governed, and where disagreement exists, brackets out these differences for the next president to choose a path. You mean you're gonna let the president know how these federal agencies are being run, where their disagreements are, and give him a quality path as a conservative on which way to go? Crazy. Pillar 2 is a personnel database that allows candidates to build their own professional profiles and our coalition members to review and voice their recommendations. Whoa, you mean that candidates and representatives are going to go to their coalition members and ask them for their own review and recommendations of the policies they want to put forth? And we're going to put together profiles for these politicians to do so? That's crazy. It's almost like we've been doing this since as long as our system has been in existence, and somebody just put together a playbook and called it Project 2025. And now it's being called this like huge conservative conspiracy theory. Sorry, I had to hit my mic here. I'm getting violent. I'm a right-wing extremist. The pillar 3 says is the Presidential Administrations Academy. It's an online educational system taught by experts from our coalition. For the newcomer, this will explain how the government functions and how to function in government. This is crazy stuff, guys. Crazy right-wing lunacy. And Pillar 4 is the playbook, where they are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of "so help me God." So once they have, a new president, hopefully a conservative president, they're saying in this playbook, this is our transition plan for how we can not only utilize a conservative president who is now sitting in power, but also hopefully work down a little bit of that influence into other federal agencies and into other parts of our government so that we can actually move forward with conservative policy. This is the most astounding, evil project I have ever read about in my life, and it must be destroyed, for if it is not, a fascist government will be instated. Meanwhile, it's just like 3 guys at the Heritage Foundation who wrote up a playbook called Project 2025, and that's what Taraji P. Henson is screaming about, as if the world is about to end because conservatives are going to come to power and start drafting black people and making homelessness illegal, which is nuts to me. So I'm like, okay, let me look into this claim that now being homeless is illegal, because what the hell is she talking about? No, she's talking about the Supreme Court and a recent decision that they pulled forth, and I'll bring up an article here so that you guys can read this too. This is from USA Today. Sleeping on public property can be a crime if you're homeless, the Supreme Court says. Now, the article starts out here saying, on Friday, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Grants Pass, Oregon, a small city with a large homeless population. The justices said the town can go ahead with its ban on sleeping in public with bedding, which will prohibit unhoused people from living in public parks, according to lawyers supporting Grants Pass, who spoke with USA Today. Now, essentially what the Supreme Court ruled in this case is that they are going to defer to cities and local governments to make a decision about homelessness, instead of advocating on behalf of the entire nation what happens with homeless people in your city. So if you live in a city that is plagued by homelessness and you can't take your 5-year-old to a public park because there are homeless men sleeping in encampments with needles strewn all over the place, and you're scared that when your 5-year-old goes down the slide, they're going to get dosed with fentanyl, you can now go to your local government and they can make a decision as to whether or not they place a ban on sleeping out in public, in parks, in recreational areas, out on the streets, and out in public. And Guess what, Taraji P. Henson? That doesn't make homelessness illegal. It makes your local governments capable of making a decision about homelessness. It makes them look at their structures like homeless shelters and whether or not we should expand them to carry these unhoused persons and give them a path out of homelessness. Yet she hops on BET to, of course, speak to Black people and speak to the Black community and urge them to vote by throwing out a claim that homelessness has now been made illegal, which is false. It is 100% false, and it's just crazy. Now, I don't know if this whole grants pass decision is going to work or do anything on behalf of fixing the homelessness problem, because what they're saying is either these homeless people can be hit with fines in cities if the city so decides, or they can be arrested in cities if the city so decides. I don't know how arresting and fining homeless people is going to at all solve the issue. But the real basis of the decision on behalf of the Supreme Court was that it's not our job to decide these things. We're going to allow your local governments to do it, which is essentially what we should be doing. Wouldn't you rather have your local government, your smaller community, making decisions about how best to serve the citizens living in your area, rather than the federal government from this whole top-down perspective telling every single state and every single city and every single community what they should do? We should go to our local leaders, the people who are living amongst us, who we know, who are representing a much smaller population and are capable of making more fine-tuned decisions for that small population, whether it's homelessness or any other issue that we're facing in our local communities. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a great decision on behalf of the U.S. Supreme Court. Yet Taraji P. Henson hops on the BET Awards with her little mic and says that they're making homelessness illegal. Look it up. Meanwhile, you look it up and 5 seconds in, you find out she's lying. It's just insane. Now, of course, she's had a major effect in pulling this stunt and giving this speech. And what it led to is actually Google searches for Project 2025 going up exponentially. And I'll pull up a graph if I can find it here for you. They've been skyrocketing because she said this. And here's the Google graph, because Google puts out these little data sets. So here was Project 2025 before. Then Taraji P. Henson mentions it, and boom, it skyrockets. And those little dotted lines that you're seeing there shows that there's so many searches that Google isn't really capable of keeping up with the data. And you know what? I applaud this. Thank you so much, Taraji P. Henson, because people are going to go look up Project 2025 and they're going to find a totally benign, innocuous website about moving forward conservative policy and the conservative agenda and ideas, which, mind you, every single, coalition or group of people or party is doing in their own way, shape, or form. And I say this as somebody who used to work for the left, right? Okay. You could have found a website for the organization that I was working for that would say the exact same thing about left-leaning and Democratic candidates. So it's just wild to me that this is being thrown out there as some horrific thing that the right is ushering forward to promote fascism, when in reality, it's just basic political strategy and basic policy review and recommendation. Wild. She's off her rocker. But Taraji P. Henson has always been off her rocker. And let me just substantiate this point real quick. Here's a clip of Taraji P. Henson talking to a group of Black people, because apparently that's all that she does. All of her movies are about Black people, Hidden Figures, and The Color Purple. She's really made this a massive part of her identity. And America itself has made race such a massive part of its identity. So I'm not surprised at all that this is the case. Here's a clip, and you might have seen this clip if you've been watching this channel. It's of Taraji P. Henson talking about why Black people run when they laugh. And I want you to ask yourself, have you ever heard a joke so funny or said something so funny that you give a little jog as you're laughing it out? I've certainly done it. I don't know if you have. Taraji P. Henson is going to explain why Black people, in particular, do this. Let's watch.
You know why Black people run away when we laugh? Because we weren't allowed to laugh on those plantations. This is stuff that lives in us, y'all. This ain't nothing new, y'all. That's why y'all going, oh, what? Yeah, it lives in us. That doesn't just go away, like she said. And if we don't start unpacking it seriously, it will also be the end of us.
Girl, Taraji, you need to start packing seriously and move the hell out of this country. What are you talking about? What are you talking about that Black people run when they laugh? Because It's a product or remnant of slavery, a time where we could not run on the plantations. Be so for real right now. Be so for real right now. I sometimes run when I laugh. I don't even have, slave ancestry. So I don't even know what you have to say for that. But it's just so wild to me, the jumps that people make in making these connections to slavery and the transatlantic slave trade and the oppression of Black people. And Taraji is just known for doing it. She jumps to conclusions, runs with those conclusions, and then does what? I don't know if she ever reconciles the situation. There was one time where she did have to somewhat reconcile a situation. And that was when her son had a run-in with police officers. And she immediately jumped to the conclusion that this was racial profiling because her son is a Black man. We're gonna watch a little news clip and see how that got cleared up for her.
Empire star Taraji P. Henson is apologizing to police, saying she, quote, overreacted when she claimed her son had been racially profiled. In a recent magazine interview, the star of TV's hottest show claimed her son was hassled by cops in Glendale, California during this traffic stop.
He did exactly everything the cops told him to do, including illegally search his car. I said, why did you do that? He said, Mom, I figured if I let them just do whatever, they would have an excuse to beat me up. My son has to walk around with that on his shoulders.
But police countered by releasing this dashcam video of the stop. The video shows her 20-year-old son, Marcel, was pulled over when cops observed him failing to stop for a pedestrian in a crosswalk.
I want you to be completely honest with me. Is there anything illegal in the car I should know about, huh?
And listen to what the officer says when Marcel admits he has some weed, but can't find his medical marijuana ID card that gives him permission to use marijuana.
Okay, I appreciate you being honest with me about the weed. I do appreciate that because I do smell weed. So thank you for being honest about that, all right?
And after he searches the young man's car, the police officer even gives him a break.
I'm not going to give you a citation for running that yellow because that'll actually put a moving violation on your driver's license.
Taraji created a social media firestorm with her claims that her son was racially profiled.
Be so fucking for real right now. That was the nicest white male cop that I've seen in a clip in quite some time, talking about, thank you so much for telling me you do have weed in the car, sir, because I do smell weed. I'm not going to give you the citation tonight because that's going to put a mark on your record. The nicest cop you could have possibly encountered. Now, mind you, I'm going to leave space for the fact that maybe this happened to Taraji P. Henson's son. He came home and said, Mama, they racially profiled me, he's trying to run cover for himself, so he spun out a little lie for her, and then she used her platform to run with it and say this whole racial profiling narrative. But my goodness, he was caught in 4K lying his ass off if that's the case. And more so than that, Taraji P. Henson should have held her tongue a little bit and waited for more facts, and maybe should have requested the dash cam footage in this case where he didn't even end up getting the citation for what he did. Crazy. So that just shows you a little bit of the history with Taraji P. Henson. She's also been very vocal about the fact that even in Hollywood, in Black spaces and in Black movies, she is taking on lesser contracts than the other Black actresses around her, and that she's not being paid enough. And she's been known to go on a little bit of a rant and even a breakdown about not being paid enough as a Black actress and making her race a part of it. Even though she's on movies like Hidden Figures and The Color Purple that are, Black projects, if that's what we want to call them, that are often headed up by Black people. So it just seems to be just a through line within her identity and her personality to talk about these things. So it's no wonder we got these cringy displays at the BET Awards. Oh, my goodness.
Taraji Smollett, huh?
Yeah, for real.
To what extent do you think all the narrative that she's putting out is like a result of how she sees the world versus how she's trying to portray the world? Like, do you think she's trying to gin up racial controversy because it gives you some sort of clout within the Hollywood elite sphere? If you're able to be the one that cries victim, if you're able to be the one that's able to identify the oppression wherever it's happening or supposedly happening, then that gives you more points within that community as somebody who's awakened to these things or whatever. Or is this genuine, or is she just trying to gin up controversy? Like, is this like a narrative that she's internalized and she genuinely does see the world as this oppressive place, or is this something that is just she's benefiting from, or is it both or somewhere in between?
I mean, I think it's genuine. I think it's genuine, and maybe some of the more egotistical or narcissistic aspects of what she's doing are subconscious drives for the stuff that she's saying and how she's interpreting things and what she's choosing to say to the public. I think she truly believes this stuff. I think she truly believes black people run when they laugh because it's a remnant of the transatlantic slave trade. I think she truly believes that police are evil, and it really had to walk back that statement when she found out what actually happened with her son. And I think she truly believes this whole Project 2025 thing is some sort of, I don't know, conspiracy to take over the U.S. government. Now, do I even think she's looked at the Project 2025 website and like read anything or looked into any of the claims that she's making? Probably not. Probably not. I think she's like hearing it from through the grapevine and then retorting it, like just saying it, regurgitating it right back out for people to hear. But I still think she genuinely believes it. I don't think she's just going through to support any of the claims she's making, though. I just can't.
Yeah, I think it's like the whole like victim, oppressor, oppressed ideology is really pernicious because it aligns your own, like, it appeals to your worst angels to like sensationalize things, to place yourself at the center, to elevate yourself in that sort of narcissistic way, as we're seeing. And yet it also posits you as totally virtuous and like positions you as the savior of the world for doing those things. So you become blind to things, facts, realities that might fly in the face of that narrative that you believe, because that narrative's so powerful, because it positions you as a hero. It positions anyone who opposes you as a bigot or a villain, or, you know, the source of all evil in the world. And there's never this like self-check of maybe I'm the problem here. There's never a check against reality. Is this stuff actually true? That's not more important than does this stuff fit the narrative. And I think you're probably right that she is being genuine about that, but it also is kind of like eating away at her soul in being so ready to accept things that fit that narrative and so ready to reject anything that doesn't.
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, her whole world revolves around it. Like most of her work in Hollywood revolves around the idea. Her personal campaigning in politics revolves around the idea. Her complaints about Hollywood revolves around the idea of race. So when so much of your identity is staked on this claim, I think you'll do anything to support it. And you will, at every turn, try to find instances and experiences to support that claim. And that's what she does. And I mean, to her own failure, because these things come out. Like you can make the claim about racial profiling, but as soon as we get the dash cam footage or whatever, and you're gonna find out that maybe what you're saying isn't true. But I hope she comes to the personal realization that a lot of this isn't true. And you know who she's endorsing in this entire thing? It's Joe Biden, obviously. She's doing the videos with Kamala Harris. She's telling people they need to get out there to vote, telling black people they need to show up to the ballot box. And of course, when she thinks black people are showing up to the ballot box, she's assuming it's going to be for Democrats, as has been the assumption for a very, very long time. But it's going to change. I think based on the applause or the lack thereof in that crowd when she was telling them to show up, based on the polling data that we're seeing, based on street interviews of black people saying, you know what, Joe Biden is asleep and we know it. And at least Trump was being real with us and was trying to do something for us. Black people are not going to vote the way Taraji P. Henson thinks they are. I mean, of course, a lot of them will, but I think we're going to see a lot of numbers change within the black community. And, you know, a lot of people say debates don't make a big change in how people vote. And I guess there is there's some realness to that. I don't know that for most people watching a presidential debate will flip where you are going to vote or flip your support. If there ever was a chance that a debate would flip somebody's support, it was this last one with Joe Biden and Trump, because I was just astounded. Like, we knew Joe Biden was a little quiet days before the debate. I saw people speculating that he was just getting his sleep schedule in tune, that they were sort of keeping him asleep during the day, keeping him awake at night so they could have him in, I guess, peak lucidity at the time of his debate. They're tweaking his drugs and the steroids and the stimulants and the uppers that they give him when he wakes up at night to make sure that he is in tip-top shape for this debate. And even still, with all the work, I'm sure helping him with all these different questions, practicing exactly what he's going to say for exactly the point of the discussion that he's on, there was still a failure somewhere. And that failure is in the fact that he's a very, very old man, clearly in a state of cognitive decline, and he has been for quite some time. And what's astounding to watch is old videos of Joe Biden compared to these new fresh ones we got out of the debate. And I'm not talking about old videos of Joe Biden where he says the United States is becoming a jungle because of out of wedlock black kids, calling them super predators. No, I'm not talking about those old videos. Oops, sorry. It was a little bit of a slip. I'm talking about this video from 2019 that Russell Brand put together and put on Twitter. Let's go ahead and compare old Joe Biden with the new.
I continue to think we have to make fundamental changes in civil rights, and those civil rights, by the way, include not just only African Americans, but the LGBT community.
He wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare
I did not oppose busing in America. What I opposed is busing ordered by the Department of Education. That's what I oppose.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if
you will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you.
And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
Yeah.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
I don't think he knows what he said either. And that's really the sadness of it, is I don't think he knows what he said either, because he doesn't. He's being puppeteered on that stage as best as they possibly can. Puppeteer somebody who is experiencing dementia and is clearly senile in his old age. And there's part of it that just makes you feel bad for him. And then you remember the 40 plus, nearly 50 years that he spent in government just completely getting nothing done. And then you feel a little less bad about the current situation that he's in. But my goodness, was it crazy. I continue to think
we have to make fundamental...
Sorry, we don't need to hear more of that. It's just crazy to watch this happen in real time. And it's even crazier to think about the coverage that has existed about Joe Biden thus far. Because, of course, right after the debate, right after you got, 2 hours of just unrestricted access to every single gaffe that this guy has, and every single moment where he loses his train of thought or doesn't know where he is or doesn't know what he's answering, the mainstream media shifts, and suddenly it's panic, or suddenly, oh, clearly he's in decline, or he had a really, really bad night, and maybe these bad nights are becoming more regular for Joe Biden, which we knew this. How long do we know this for? How long have we been saying that this man is senile? He doesn't know where he is, what he's doing. He just wants that chocolate chip ice cream at the end of the night. And that's really probably what he was told. He said, Joe, just go out there, speak for 2 hours. You've got the talking point, and Jill Biden is off stage. Just look to your right. She's got 2 cones of chocolate chip ice cream. If you can just do this right. And he still couldn't get there. And for that, I feel bad for him. I don't feel bad for this media that is now sort of running game on this and trying to flip the narrative and saying we're panicking now, when you knew damn well this entire time that this is exactly what he was like, but you were just choosing not to cover it. And Taylor asked me before this, do you think the debate truly rocked the world? Because we knew this about Biden. We knew that this was what he was like. I do think a lot of left-leaning people had not had the opportunity to recognize this in Joe Biden, at least to the full extent. If you're watching MSNBC, CNN all the time, they're not really covering all the decline that we've witnessed in Joe Biden. So maybe it would have been a shocking experience for you to watch this debate. I certainly saw a lot of left-leaning streamers freaking out as they were watching this debate, not knowing what he was going to say next, sitting at the edge of their chairs, and really trying to pull this game where they say that Trump is in the same boat as Joe Biden, although Joe Biden did a lot worse, but they're both bad. They're both both demented. They're both a little senile. Jon Stewart specifically tried to sort of make that claim in his monologue where he says, oh, well, both of these guys didn't do too well. It was a couple of two old white men talking at each other about golf for 2 hours. I think we can acknowledge that even though Trump had his poor moments in this debate, it was nowhere near what we witnessed in Joe Biden. Yet they're still trying to play the game a little bit. And somebody put together a compilation, and I won't harp on this too long, of just media coverage of people calling Joe Biden sharp and mixing that with his performance at the debate. Let's take a look.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America.
This is a man who is sharp, who is on top of his game, who knows what's going on.
He's smart. He's on his game.
His mental acuity is great.
This is a very sharp president.
And the people that I've talked to say he's as sharp as a tack. He's fine.
They say he's sharp.
There's not a problem.
He was sharp.
He was sharper than anyone I've spoken to.
The president. Please. Please, give me a break. Give me a break. And now they go from running the script of sharp as a tack. Oh, he's so cute. He knows exactly what he's saying. And now the script is panic, and we don't know what we're going to do next. And the Bidens are getting together to have a discussion about whether or not he's going to remain as the Democrat candidate for this next presidential election, which I guess it seems like he is. I don't know who they're going to replace him with. Who's next? I don't know, Gavin Newsom. And who likes Gavin Newsom? I mean, with his track record here in California, I just don't see him being able to go up against somebody like Donald Trump. I don't know how that would go for him. I'm thinking, who else could it possibly be if it's not Joe Biden? I don't know, guys. Do you guys have an answer for that?
So I've heard some people say Gretchen Whitmer, because she's the governor of a swing state. There've been a few. I mean, Kamala obviously was one that has been trotted out reluctantly. Mm-hmm. But from what I understand, there's a lot of barriers in place to making something like that happen. Biden and Kamala would both need to step aside in order for, voluntarily, in order for them to be able to replace them as the DNC candidate. And then there's all these other issues with the war chest, the fundraising that has been raised already for Biden. You can't necessarily just transfer that over to another candidate. We saw conflicting reports this weekend. First, it was breaking Biden's going to meet with his family and the decision's been made for him to step aside. And then we got out of that meeting, no, Hunter has persuaded him to stay in. So it seems very crazy and very volatile right now. Mm-hmm. I think some of the most interesting analysis I've seen on this was from Ben Shapiro as to what he was saying earlier this morning, talking about basically how the perception that Biden could do this, could make it through the election, was the thing that was holding together the interests of the media, of the Biden administration, who's currently in power, and of Democrats and Democratic Party in general. And now that perception has been shattered after this debate, everyone's incentives have also been shattered. And so the media is not wanting to be exposed as shilling for Biden for all this time. They're trying to regroup and retain any kind of credibility that they can by making it look like they're not lying about this anymore. So they've suddenly shifted into calling for Biden, New York Times editorial board, this called for Biden to step down. I think Politico, the New Yorker have as well. So the media is now turning on the administration. And then meanwhile, the administration is doubling down because if they're not going to voluntarily step aside out of power, because then all their jobs and all their influence and their cushy lifestyle, which is probably epitomized in Jill Biden's interview, I think, with what was it, Vogue or one of these fashion magazines this past weekend, where she's talking about, you have no idea what it feels like to be riding in a motorcade and things like. She's clearly just enamored with that lifestyle. But I think that's part and parcel of everybody. Once you have tasted of being in power, you're not going to want to relinquish that voluntarily. So they're going to continue to try to prop up Biden and see it through. And then the Democratic Party in general is very fractured now. And that's streamers like Hassan and Destiny and then other people just out in the zeitgeist are like, no, guys, we actually need to pivot. This is not going to work. This is a losing strategy. And they're trying to do anything that they possibly can to get in a position to actually win. Because if you look at the polling data, Biden is very much unelectable at this point, just by the numbers. Kamala, even more so somehow. And these other figures that they have. Of course, Michelle Obama is the one that has the best numbers, but she's given no indication that she would run. But the Newsoms and such are marginally better, but still on the losing side. So it's very interesting. But the other thing I've seen, though, is that a lot of Republicans are spiking the football already and acting like this is a win. But from everything that we saw last election cycle, I wouldn't put it past something else crazy to happen between now and November that totally shifts the momentum or flips everything yet again. So what a time to be alive, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy to just see what happens and what unfolds here. I cannot make a prediction on what's going to happen. All I know is that debate was crazy. And of course, Trump had his moments on the debate. I would not have engaged on the whole golf back and forth. It just was a bad look or whatever. He had some poorly worded things, like when he said that Joe Biden is like a Palestinian and he's a bad Palestinian at that. I would have not ever have said that. And you leave a lot of room for just bad interpretations and bad characterizations of what you're saying when you say something like that. When he was talking about jobs and illegal immigration and saying they're taking black jobs, they're taking Hispanic jobs. I see a lot of people on the left now running with jokes about like, what is a black job? What's a Hispanic job? When he probably just should have said of American jobs that are had by black people and Hispanic people also, to make that point, because now everybody's doing black jobs. What's a black job? And when are the Hispanics going to come and steal it from me and blah, blah, blah. But it's just people.
We had H2O was my favorite when he just said, during my administration, we had the cleanest water. We had H2O. That indicates the cleanliness of the water.
Yeah.
Just the molecular formula. Like,
it's
what?
Just like,
and it was also his superlatives were just all over the place. It was like, I was the best president ever. Biden's the worst president we've ever had. The economy was perfect and amazing. And the border was absolutely secure. And it's just like, it's hard to come off as very credible when everything is totally 100% the best ever for me and the worst ever for my opponents. Like a little bit low resolution. Let's have a little more nuance. Right.
It's just, yeah. Which I get it. I've watched analysis on the way that Trump speaks, and there's something powerful in layman's terms and really putting things out to people in a very simplistic manner that labels, a right path and a wrong path. And I think he utilizes that pretty strategically when he speaks. But there were some errors, definitely. And you would imagine that would take place. But people are trying to attribute it to his age and saying that he's in the same state as Biden when it comes to cognitive decline. And we know that is not true whatsoever. And I don't know how anybody could have watched that debate and think that they are at all on the same level, these two individuals. Also, I'm trying to figure out, what was this little moderator lady doing with the hand signals during the debate? I'm going to show you this clip. Her name is Dana Bash. And of course, this was on CNN. She was the female moderator.
President Biden, a record number of migrants illegally crossed the southern border on your watch. Overwhelming border states. And under the issue of immigration and border security, President Biden, a record number of migrants illegal.
Who is she signaling to? Now people are saying, she's just signaling to the cameraman. She's telling the cameraman to, get in on the guy who's asking the question and really focus on him instead of on her. And that's why she's signaling. But she's doing it in a way where she's like sort of trying to look away and not trying to show what she's doing. A little bit of a shameful expression on her face. And coincidentally, the question was being posed to none other than President Biden. People are speculating that maybe she was telling President Biden who to be looking at, because he's known to be giving these glances off into nowhere with his mouth literally agape because he has no idea what is going on. So I don't know. She hasn't come out and clarified what the hand signals were for. I have personally never seen somebody on a debate stage or on the news at all ever give hand signals like this in any way. And you would think this would be something you want to stay away from, just as it's a distraction for the audience. So I'm wondering who she was signaling to. And maybe they'll come up with some sort of an excuse or maybe some sort of valid reason as to why she was signaling, and it has nothing to do with President Biden. But it was very strange. And it did sort of seem like they were trying to put everything in place for President Biden to have a pretty smooth interaction when it came to this debate, because you'd have to with somebody in his state you'd have to plan things out, very strategically and have the markers for him and have some sort of a regimen or routine. Because as we know, a routine is very important for people who are experiencing cognitive decline. And when you step out of the routine, things can get flustered. It can create anger. It can create moments of, the typical gaffes that we see from Joe Biden of confusion. So was that part of the plan as well? Just look to the nice lady who looks a little bit like Jill when she was younger, and she'll point to you and tell you who to look at, and you can pretend like it's Jill just for a moment because we know that you remember her. I don't know, guys, but it's weird.
There was also a moment where Biden was kind of playing with his ear and people were speculating that he had an earpiece. There was a time where Jake Tapper kind of rescued Biden after he trailed off, and Jake was just kind of stepped in and was like, thank you. And then moved on to the next question. And I also saw something where CNN intimated that they had given Biden the questions in advance, maybe both candidates, who knows. But I think even so, even with all that, even with all the terms that Biden stipulated in like having the mute button when one's talking, no live audience, all those things, and taking an entire week off at Camp David to be Lord knows what, shot full of drugs and get a sleep schedule cycled and have mock debates with people standing in as Trump. All that working in his favor, it didn't really help. It didn't stem the tide of reality and of the obvious. And I think that's the greatest takeaway from the debate. Like you said, it's not anything really nuanced when it comes to policy positions or anything of that ilk. It's really just the optics of how Biden looked, how he sounded, how he showed up, and the reality. Like everyday Americans they have grandparents. I have grandparents who have kind of experienced that dementia and that decline, and it does happen pretty quickly. And you can just see it. It's so hard to, you can't fake it at that point. And I think that that's the biggest takeaway from Americans from the debate was just, wow, this is real.
Yes, it was indeed a very, very rough watch, and it's elder abuse at this point. I think we can all stand by that. I think we can all agree that that is what's happening. Now, with the debates taking place and all of the lunacy and crazy responses and the memes and the reactions, a lot of people came under fire for what they felt about the debate, specifically people who we would typically attribute being left-leaning in their politics, who are sort of calling out Joe Biden. And we've seen a lot of calling out Joe Biden from the left, people saying he's too old, people not liking his response to what's happening with Gaza and Israel, just people who are looking at Joe Biden and thinking that he is not the candidate for us. Now, a famous influencer, makeup artist, lifestyle influencer by the name of James Charles, who is pretty prominent on the internet, decided to voice his opinion on Joe Biden because Joe Biden was tweeting out during the debate. His team was tweeting out after the debate. The interns are working overtime, tweeting out different things and different slogans on behalf of Joe Biden on his account. But they specifically tweeted out that if Biden is reelected, he is going to reinstate Roe v. Wade, and this will be a major plan. And he's trying to influence people. Please vote for me. I will bring Roe v. Wade back, and we'll get the situation fixed. Now, James Charles had something to say about that, and he's now in hot water, getting a lot of heat for his statement on the issue. Let's check it out and hear from him on this.
Nobody should be thinking here that Joe Biden is the right person to be president. Literally during that debate, somebody from his fucking team tweeted out saying, if I get reelected, I will reinstate Roe versus Wade. Newsflash, Grandpa, you're the fucking president now. And it's gone because of you. Oh my God, what do you mean if you get reelected, you'll bring it back? Do it now. Do it now, and maybe you'll have a chance at some people fucking voting for you, because it's not looking great, buddy. Nobody.
Okay. Now, this got millions and millions and millions of views. I cannot overstate how popular James Charles is as an individual, and he doesn't typically talk about super political issues, so this was sort of out of character for his content and his audience, so it really took off, and people had a lot of things to say. People were cheering on and saying, James, this is so correct. Biden should do something about Roe v. Wade, and he's not done anything as president. Of course, I don't know James Charles really thought through what he was saying in this video in his criticism of Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is not necessarily capable of waving a magic wand and bringing back Roe v. Wade. It's just not something that you can do, and that decision was made by the Supreme Court, which is, stacked in the conservative sense and has a more conservative lean to it at the moment in these lifetime appointments. So I'm not sure what he was getting at in telling Joe Biden to just immediately fix Roe v. Wade, and I'm assuming what Joe Biden was insinuating with his Roe v. Wade statement is if we get another, 4 years tacked on to my presidential administration, we can try to do some work in the vein of Roe v. Wade to make changes and get your abortion rights, as the left would call them, back to women. So James Charles didn't really hit the mark. I mean, I love a good criticism of Joe Biden, but this wasn't necessarily a good criticism of Joe Biden. There were maybe other things he could have pointed to that Joe Biden didn't get done throughout his presidential term here, but he chose to run on this Roe v. Wade tweet. Now, people were backing up James because they too don't understand how our government works and how these things change and shift. But of course, then the fact checkers came after James Charles and had to light him up a little bit. Let me
tell you something, you botch body, BBL having ass bitch. Joe Biden is not the reason why we lost Roe v. Wade. It was that orange Oompa Loompa bitch that was sitting on that debate stage. And why do you have all this smoke for Joe, but no smoke for the one person who appointed 3 Supreme Court justices that rolled back Roe v. Wade? Why do you have so much smoke for damn Democrats who actually tried to codify women's reproductive rights before the Supreme Court decision by trying to pass the Women's Health Care Protection Act back in 2022? As you can see in this photo, Vice President Kamala Harris presiding over the Senate, trying to get it passed, but we lack the motherfucking votes. If Joe is reelected, he does have the ability to bring it back if we take back the House and if we get more votes in the Senate in order to pass it. That's what Joe's promise is. I don't understand why you guys don't understand it. Maybe if you paid more time in civics, paying attention rather than beating your face and potentially beating your beat while also sending explicit photos to minors, maybe you would know that. Maybe, just maybe, if you spend less time trying to capitalize off of black suffrage and post-slavery, trying to capitalize off of a song called Bring Me Water, Sylvie, by a black man by the name of Lead Belly, who was stringing a song based off of his uncle who was plowing a fucking field post-slavery, maybe you would know what Joe Biden has done. Y'all, this color gaze get on my motherfucking nerves because you have the motherfucking nerve to get on a goddamn platform without knowing what the fuck you're talking about. The fucking audacity for somebody, a part of the LGBT community, my community, to come at Joe sideways as much as he's done for our fucking community when it comes to trans affirmative care, when it comes to trying to end conversion therapy, when it comes to marriage equality. How fucking dare you?
All right. It's a little bit of a spicy response to James' video there. I will never understand people getting on the internet and just screaming into their cell phones at people and having this much energy towards somebody that only ever exists on your screen and who you do not know. But I digress. He did have some valid points here that maybe James Charles should do a little bit of research as to how the government works and how something like Roe v. Wade can get overturned and how one would reinstate something like Roe v. Wade. The assumption that James Charles is supposed to feel a certain way politically simply because he is gay and a member of the LGBTQ plus community, I by no means agree with. And we're going to talk about pride and LGBTQ this in the agenda that a lot of gay, bi, lesbian, and now even trans people in the year that we are in right now, 2024, don't agree with. There should be no expectation that because you are a part of the LGBTQ plus community that you have to support a certain person or you have to love Joe Biden or love the things that he has done for this country. I'll go ahead and let that be known. Now, he shades James Charles for some recent music that he's put out, for a scandal of him messaging minors, which is a real indeed scandal. You can look that up in his history. But yeah, I think this was a missed mark on James Charles, but also, why are you just screaming into your phone? And a lot of people are making these videos going ahead and fact checking him. It's just amazing to me, and it points out, I think, how much audacity and confidence people can have on the internet screaming their opinions out into the world. We watch James Charles scream at Joe Biden and be wrong. We watch this guy just scream into his phone at James Charles, a little bit right, a little bit wrong. And there's just so much audacity on the internet, and so many people have just unfiltered access to all this information, and you can scroll on TikTok for an hour and get a million different opinions of people confidently telling you that this is how something works, or this is how your government runs, or this is who you should support, how you should support them, and why you should support them, and they are wrong. And people are taking in this influence from people who they think they can support, who they think are their friends, because we're in an era of really deep set parasocial relationships. James Charles is so famous and he has millions of followers because millions of people relate to him in some way. They love the things that he's doing. And while it should hopefully remain in the influence or in the space that James Charles has, which is like makeup and beauty, it can sort of splinter out into other things like politics. And now you're hearing from James Charles about how he feels about Joe Biden. And you're hearing from this guy in his car about how he feels about James Charles and LGBTQ acceptance of Joe Biden. If there's one thing I can say, Google is a great resource. Sometimes they're a little biased themselves, but like look into these things and see about whether or not these people are telling you the truth and whether or not the claims that they're making are actually true as far as to how our government works, especially how you should be voting and who you should be supporting. Because oftentimes, they're wrong. They're wrong. Taylor, did you even know who James Charles was?
I remember him being a flamboyant person on TikTok, but that was about it. I did not know that he was super famous. Apparently, everybody on Gen Z knows who he is, and he's a giant influencer for them.
Yes, he's a huge YouTuber, huge TikToker. He's been in the space for a very, very long time. Again, in the beauty makeup artist realm and doing these sort of crazy looks. But he's really been a trend follower, setter, hopper in a lot of ways for some years now, doing this stuff. And of course, it's been steeped in his own scandals. Like I said, messaging minors, which is crazy. The new thing with his song that this guy brings up and saying it's an appropriation of Black culture and slave culture and things like that. Take that how you will. Take that with a grain of salt. If you ask me, I would be more worried about the messaging of minors part than anything that has to do with appropriation. But still, he's remained sort of a pillar within the current pop culture, and his face sticks around. It's a very recognizable one. So to hear him scream about Joe Biden was certainly interesting, although he was very much in the wrong in saying just fix it to the president who is not capable of just fixing something like Roe v. Wade. So there we go, guys. We're going to move on. Since, we've sort of put our toe in the realm of LGBTQ, as James Charles is gay, and this guy makes the accusation that you gotta support people who support gay people. It is July 1st and Pride Month has come to an end, but that doesn't stop me from getting crazy ass videos on my timeline of pride parades that are happening all over this interesting place that we live on right now. Here in California, in San Francisco, there was a video that I cannot even show you. This happened at a pride parade. Now, San Francisco has one of the craziest pride parades every single year. And at this pride parade, they have an 18 plus area that is for fetishes that you guys can check out if you'd like. Here's a picture of that. This is the fetish zone. It's supposedly for 18 plus, although it says no IDs were checked as people were waved into the area. I can't even scroll through this video to show you what was going on, but let me just explain it. There was a lot of nudity taking place, both grown men and grown women in the nude, just walking around. There was a pool that a grown man was sitting in, and you watched as people urinated on this grown man in this fetish zone. And this is apparently for people who are into that sort of act. You could do that publicly at the San Francisco Pride. Now, let's be so real with one another right now. I don't care if you are gay, lesbian, straight, bi, pan, asexual, demisexual, whatever the word is now for people who experience all these different things that exist on the spectrum of sexuality. Who is okay with this? Who is okay with this public exhibition of just gross sexual acts that should remain within the privacy of your own home? I know a lot of gay people are not down with this. A lot of gay people that I know, that you know, a lot of gay people that are watching right now. You guys cannot be down with this stuff. And I'm seeing time and time again now, gay people who are calling this out and saying, yo, this is not okay whatsoever. And I don't know why we as a society sort of have to bend down to the whims of these people and say, oh, well, I understand that this is a part of your sexuality and this is allowed. And oh, sure, a grown man in a doggy costume who's being walked around on a leash by another grown man in a gimp suit. Oh, it's all about acceptance. It's all about showing that this is an identity that you can showcase and you can have. Oh my gosh, 3,000 people in furry costumes running around in the street with their private areas out. Oh, what an accepting nation we live in. Be so for real with me right now. This is not okay, guys. This is not okay. And we should not be encouraging this, especially gay, lesbian, and bisexual people should not be encouraging this because it's just painting such a bad picture of the community at large. And I know plenty of LGBTQ plus people who are chill, who aren't engaging in anything like this, who wanted to fight for LGBTQ rights and, marriage equality and things like that and said, you know what, now that we got it, I'm glad that I can live my life. You can live yours. I'm going to stay out of your business. You stay out of my business. And that's the way I want it to be. And I feel like that group has got to be growing in the wake of what we're seeing at these pride parades. Here's a video that I can show you, 17 seconds long, of a man in a very suggestive outfit just walking around at Pride, and see where he makes a beeline. Like, I don't understand, okay? I get it. It's Pride. People wear these crazy costumes. When I was a kid, I used to go to Pride parades when I was younger. And because, left-leaning, all this different stuff, we're accepting of all this stuff. They weren't nearly as crazy as they are today. But still, you had men in like Speedos on their little floats dancing around, throwing out condoms to the crowd mixed with candy. So I guess kids get to pick the candy and the adults get the condoms, even though you're throwing them all at the same time to children who are just sitting there watching what you're doing. This guy makes a straight ass beeline towards those two little kids. Why? Like, why would you just separate them out from everybody else and make a beeline straight towards them? I don't understand, especially in what you are wearing, which is a full-on Speedo with your junk right there for the kids to see. Why would you make a beeline for the children? Make it make sense. And all across the country now, they're doing these like family-friendly Pride events. And I don't know. In every video that I'm seeing, it doesn't look particularly family-friendly. I'm seeing drag queens in the same outfits that strippers wear when they're out on a pole. I'm seeing men in outfits like this, which doesn't seem particularly family-friendly to me. And yeah, maybe your 18-plus region is cut off for people who are adults. But is there really full, coverage where kids can't see that you have a pool full of urine that people are laying in to indulge in some sort of fetish that they have? And this is me, people say, oh no, you can't kink shame anymore. You can't kink shame these days. I'm not even going to kink shame you guys. You guys can be into whatever it is you into. Even though I think some of y'all should be in jail. You guys can be into whatever you guys are into or whatever, if not jail therapy, but you guys can be into whatever it is that you're into. But my goodness, that doesn't mean that we should not shame the people who are trying to do this out in the street. And there are much worse videos than what I showed you. There was like naked men running around with everything hanging out in the parades. People are riding on bicycles fully naked in front of people. And there's kids around to be openly able to see this, but I cannot show this to you on YouTube as it'll get our channel. We'll be a little done for if I show you what's happening in public. Isn't that crazy? That I can't show you, mainly adults watching this right now, what I'm seeing that is being portrayed and displayed for kids in public in our metropolitan areas, okay? I'm all for people being proud that they're gay or lesbian or whatever, even though I think that's largely an exercise in futility. You guys can be proud of whatever it is you want to be proud of. That does not mean you get to do these acts in public. And gay people are jumping on this bandwagon as well. I'm going to read some tweets to you guys, just ones that I saw that I felt like, okay, we can read this. This is from Jamie Mitchell, of course, the gay who strayed. A lot of you will know this individual. I am so effing revolted by what I've seen come out of Pride today. I really don't have the words. Millions of gays and lesbians feel true shame to be associated with these vile degenerates. There is also nothing to be proud of. I am sickened to my core. And there's a ton of gay people in the replies who are just echoing this sentiment and saying, you know what, totally agree with you. And this is such a heinous thing to be seeing this. Somebody said, yep, quoting my gay friends who are 15 to 25 years my senior, I'm mid-40s, quote, this is not what we fought for, not why we marched, not what we wish to be associated with. It's danger to us eventually, and we cannot accept the way children have been involved. These people are sick. And you have to think about that. Think about like the old gay rights movement and all the different marches and parades that were done in the name of, I don't know, like marriage equality, not being, beaten up for being gay, sort of lifting some of the social stigma that surrounded the gay identity and homosexuality. Okay, cool, fine. But now when you've ushered in this new era of LGBTQism where people are doing these pools, these fetish pools in the middle of San Francisco, or naked men are walking up to children, people are going to associate that with all the work that has been done on behalf of the LGBTQ community. And you know what? They'd be right to do it because that's what people are saying. They're linking it to all the work that's been done on behalf of the LGBTQ community and saying that this is a new part in the long history of fighting for LGBTQ equality. Everything from the fetish parts of these parades to the men walking around naked to the children who are getting their breasts cut off and undergoing hormone therapy and puberty blockers in the name of being trans inclusive. All of this stuff is being lumped together as if that is what LGBT stands for. And until I don't know, a ton of gay, lesbian, bi, whoever you are, people, and just regular, whoever comes forward and says this is not okay, it's going to continue, and it's going to be even more radical than it already is. And I have like tweet after tweet of gay people coming out and saying this is not okay. This person says, as a bisexual person, I hate this crap. I hate the rainbow flag, the gay pride parades and crap. Then we have the creepy pedophiles trying to join in the group. This person says, I'm gay and I hate the pride flag now, that she used to love it and now has nothing in common with the gay movement now that they allow men in frocks into women's spaces. It is splintering off. This person, Gay Latinas for Trump, says pride parades are not related to pride. They're an excuse to publicly go naked or almost naked and to blatantly show disdain towards things like heterosexuals and God and America and babies and children. This stuff needs to go. So I think there's going to be an ever-growing movement within the, if we can even call it that, the LGBTQ community. I don't like the word community. I don't like lumping people together, but of people tossing out the pride stuff, the pride displays, the pride parades, because it's starting to make a very bad name for the community, if we even want to call it that, as a whole. We got to be over this stuff. It doesn't need to exist anymore. Also, like, what rights are we still fighting for at this point? Because now it's getting a little ridiculous. It's getting a little cornball, and it's getting a little creepy, more so than cornball and ridiculous.
Yeah, it's time, huh? It's time for reckoning. I remember we started this month with it's Pride Month, here we go again kind of episode. And even then we were talking about how it sort of feels like the wave of this movement has kind of crested and people are over the excesses of it. Even gays and trans people inclusive who are still have their rational brains intact and are looking at the excesses of this radical sort of exhibitionism and sexualization of public spaces and the crazy gender ideology stuff. And they're like, okay, guys, we need to calm down and just exist. We want to live and let live. We want our rights. That's all we were ever fighting for. We don't need to mandate all these companies waving our flags. We don't need all this pandering. We don't need all this crazy fetish zones in our parades and things like that, because that becomes something else entirely than what everything was originally about. And I can't tell you, how many times we've seen that sentiment portrayed to us by quote unquote members of the LGBTQ community who just want no part in this stuff anymore. So I wonder, and it does kind of feel like all of society, regular old gay people, trans people, whatever included, are kind of just over it and ready for a new chapter in this. And hopefully we get enough voices speaking out against the excesses of this movement to where we get something resembling something a little bit more normal and tame that actually represents everyday people who happen to have a certain kind of attraction or whatever it may be, instead of the utter insanity and depravity that it has become.
Yeah, shout out to all the reasonable gay, lesbian, bi, trans people out there who do not vibe with this stuff, because neither do we. Now, the last little story we're going to go over, of course, Olympic trials are happening currently, and we've had some interesting moments from the Olympic trials. I always see like little clips of it on TikTok of all the different things the athletes are doing, but we have one athlete in Alicia Leigh Johnson who is made it to the Olympics, but she had this to say, and I believe she is doing the hurdles is her Olympic sport, and she of course gets her Olympic spot in the Olympic trials, and she had this to say about winning this for people who look like her. Let's hear it.
Have to make this team, and you did. How?
It was all God. I already knew before the season started what was coming for me. I knew it was the easiest thing to do, because everybody all the time said that I wasn't good enough, said that I didn't deserve, and so I did this my way, my team's way, and just the way that it was meant to be. This is for the hood babies. This is for the people who are poor that come from nothing. This is for everybody that looks like me, that was ever doubted, and I did it with a black designer on my chest. This is what I stand for, and I'm making a way for everybody in my position.
Wow, what a mess.
Okay, and you know what? This is an amazing feat for her, and congratulations. You can see there at the bottom of the screen, the 100-meter hurdles. She's going to the Olympics. Fantastic. Love that for you. I love that she says, this is for, the people who are poor. She even says the hood babies. There's a lot of really great athletes, students, academic minds, all these different people who happen to be living in disadvantaged positions in life and underprivileged positions in life. And shout out to them, because she's seemingly one of those people. She worked really hard in the face of people telling her that she couldn't do it. But what was with the this is for everybody that looks like me line? Considering it's the 100-meter hurdles. I mean, if you look around left to right, everybody looks like you in the 100-meter hurdles. I don't even know. Was there maybe one white athlete, I think, that made it through? And I don't even know if they're going to make it to the Olympics. I think it was almost all black athletes that are going through to compete in the Olympics for the 100-meter hurdles. So if you look around, everybody looks like you. So I don't know exactly what you mean. Like, I picture this and I'm imagining like Caitlin Clark. She's a part of the WNBA. She's sort of in the minority as a white woman. I can't imagine her saying like, I won this for everybody who looks like me. I'm on the Indiana Fever for everybody who looks like me. You would never be able to say that, first of all. I can only imagine how that would play to the public if somebody like Caitlin Clark uttered a statement like that, even whispered a statement like that. But she would have more basis for making that statement than Alicia Johnson has for making that statement about being in the Olympics for the 100-meter hurdles. Because everybody looks like, if we look at track and field in the Olympics just as a sport alone, a lot of people look a lot like Alicia Johnson. So it's just so interesting. And of course, this is a minor little throwaway comment, and people love to hear it. And they love to hear this like black girl magic, we made it, I'm black and I'm going to the Olympics thing. And people are talking about how they want to see more black athletes. And it's a narrative that's just being pushed here in the United States and in the West in general. But is it accurate? Is it an accurate one? And wouldn't it be great to like relieve yourself of that burden of I want to see more athletes that look like me by just looking around and seeing the athletes that look like you? Because there's a lot of black athletes in track and field, and you're not particularly disadvantaged in that realm. In fact, if anything, it seems like black people do have an advantage in that sport. So I don't know that it's some great win for the race. I don't even know what a great win for your race looks like, or what it means to encourage certain people of a certain race, of a certain look, to do well in a particular facet of society or in a particular sport. And it just goes to show that just the narrative of racialization and feeling a certain way about your marginalized status because you are black, because you are a woman, it sort of tops all. It takes priority over logic, reasoning, just sheer and utter accomplishment that you could be taking in and really owning because you've done this amazing thing, being somebody who, as she says, grew up in the hood, grew up poor. Own that, wear that, say you did it despite the privileges that you lacked in your childhood, in your upbringing. But the blackness part doesn't have anything to do with it. We are in an age where, if you're black, you can just about do anything in this country. And she's excelling in a sport where Black people happen to excel as well. So I'm just not sure where the racialized narrative came from or why it's still there.
Me neither, and my computer's freaking out right now, so we might have to do super chats.
Yeah, I know. We'll get into super chats and hear from you guys on this one. Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, we've heard other people say this about their sports and wanting to see more Black people. I saw a tweet that went super viral. If I can pull this up, it's somewhere in here, where there's a Black guy who just did the Olympic trials for gymnastics, and his name is escaping me, Frederick Richard. And he'll be going to Paris to compete as a male gymnast. And this tweet went viral in response to it, saying, I want to see more Black boys in gymnastics so bad they would eat this sport up. What does it matter, the race of the individual who's going into the sport and what they look like? And even so, like Black people are doing pretty well in gymnastics last I checked, especially with somebody like Simone Biles, the #1 gymnast in the world, really, who doesn't seem to be getting beat anytime soon. This obsession with looks and features and the race of individuals who are part of these competitions and just race in general, just even outside of the Olympics, is getting a little old, because I'm sort of over hearing about this all the time. I think we can move on. I'd much rather just watch the Olympics and see these amazing people who are wildly talented, just doing these major feats as far as human athleticism and what they're capable of. But instead, it's made to be about winning this for a certain group of people, or wanting more people who look like me in the sport as I'm now qualifying in Paris. And what a joyous occasion it would be if we let go of the race narrative and just watched amazing human beings just do amazing things. And that's really the extent of my thoughts on that. I'll continue to watch my little TikTok clips of all the different athletes winning their respective races or in their respective sport. But I'm not going to engage on the race stuff. I can't tell you anything about that. I want to see accomplished, competitive, impressive athletes be representatives of the United States of America. I don't care what they look like. I care that they love their sport, that they're doing well at it, and that they're in a position to compete on the world stage. And I don't care what race you are, if that's what you're doing. So yeah, let's get into your super chats, guys, and hear from you guys on these matters.
All right, I think I'm back on track here, so sorry about that.
No worries.
35 and looking good says, again, I beg you to guess who that might be.
Oh gosh, I know who it is.
It says, hey gang, I don't know about y'all, but that pre-track is straight up fuego. By the way, I heard Taylor was the Grand Marshal at the Pride Parade in downtown Minneapolis.
What?
I don't know where you hearing that, man. Is that at the gay clubs you're hanging out at in downtown Minneapolis? Or what's going on?
Right. Where is this word coming from? Who is telling you these things?
Alex Lesher says, sorry to hear about your voice. Glad you're feeling a bit better. Keep getting better. Sucks when you feel under the weather.
Yeah, it's so funny because I didn't even feel under the weather. I just couldn't speak. I was fully ready to do a show on Friday and sit and talk with you guys. Just did not have the capability to do so. I felt like Ariel, Princess Ariel in The Little Mermaid. Look like her too now. Thanks, Disney, in the diversity switch.
Finally see yourself in a hero.
Yeah.
Alex Lesher says, oh wait, no, I just read that. 35 again says, so question for the guys that are just starting to date a girl. Amala, what's one mistake your boyfriend made early on in the relationship that he's now fixed?
I don't know. None? I don't have an answer for that. It was pretty stellar, like straight out of the gate. Yeah, I don't know. I was in love with that man as soon as I met him. So I don't know. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses on, but it's been a few years now, so I don't know. I'll have to think. I'll think about that. I'm sure I can think of something, and I'll get back to you. Hopefully by the end of these super chats, I'll rack my brain.
Rack your brain in the background. Mm-hmm. Grace Porter says, oh, and Alex says the same thing. It's just Alex, not this previous Alex. How many tabs do you have open on average when you make a video?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me think about this. For our lives, probably like 15 to 20 tabs open at any given moment. Plus I'll open tabs as we're speaking on the show to sort of look things up and get references for you guys and stuff like that. When we're filming like Tuesday, Thursday videos, it can be many tabs. It can be a few tabs. I know a lot of you guys are always like checking the top screen. I'm good thing I don't have anything crazy. I don't have anything crazy open in my tabs. I always see like streamers get caught like looking up some wild stuff in their tabs. Normally male streamers, let's be honest. But yeah, my tabs are always just the research we're doing for the show. So lots of that.
I saw a thing where a streamer was like typing in his password on camera, and like people took that and recorded it and hacked him based on like watching him type.
Tragic.
Wild.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that. I try to be very vigilant about that sort of security and stuff, and when I post pictures and all that. Yeah.
Scary. But y'all would never. We know you guys would never.
Yes, please never.
Chicken Pork Adobo says, I got racially profiled here in Sydney when police checked everyone, white teenagers' ID except for me. I felt offended that they think Asians are GUD.
Asians are good? Wait, I'm confused. You got racially profiled in Sydney.
They checked all the white teenagers, but not him.
Oh.
Because they think Asians are good.
Because they think Asians are good. It's your lucky day.
Positive profile?
That is so funny. Yeah, I have a positive profile. Interesting. I wonder why. I wonder what the thought process is there. Maybe they have a bunch of rambunctious white teenagers in Sydney.
Yeah, maybe there's a very low fraud or fake ID crime rate among Asians.
I guess so.
Linus Straza says, first super chat from Austria, no kangaroos. Love y'all. I was curious what you think about Candace Owens' new show and her outspoken views on World War II and 9/11.
I didn't know she had a new show, to be honest.
Yeah, she's like relaunched as just Candace, but like independent from Daily Wire, but I haven't seen anything she's really put out.
Yeah, I don't watch other people in this space for the most part. I kind of just do my thing and I stick to my own business and I just do my thing. I don't know. So maybe I'll check out Candace Owens' new stuff, but I can't make any promises there. Sorry, guys.
You don't watch everything she does and try to emulate her as the second Candace Owens, like everyone always says?
I'm like, I do my job and I go about my business.
Yuki91 said, oh no, oh my gosh, I'm tripping today. No, this is actually another Filipino. Yuki91 says, I'm half white Filipino, but I look white, and my Filipino immigrant mom raised me in the U.S. Because I look white, I was told that I have white privilege and cannot be a POC. Am I wrong to be upset?
It's just kind of ridiculous. A lot of people say this. It's like, what defines being white anyways? Because there are people who look white and who are not like racially white, or they're racially ambiguous, but they're white passing. And then I guess you still get the label of having white privilege. I wouldn't bother being upset about it because maybe that's a status too high as far as like the emotional toll it would take on you. I would just take in how ridiculous that is and how illogical it is and just go on about my business because it's just ridiculous. Crazy.
Yeah, worrying about how many privilege or oppression points that you have is not worth, getting upset over.
Yeah.
So that's correct.
Not.
35 and looking good says, I can't lie, I love ice cream as much as Biden does. And if he made concrete mixers with cookie dough and cheesecake pieces cheaper, I'd vote for him.
Right. Okay, that's his next campaign is to make ice cream cheaper. And that gets Alex on board. I wonder who else that would get on board.
I don't know. Chocolate chip discount for everybody.
Chip. Yep.
Ooh.
Love that.
And the media goes wild.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Andres says, hi, Amla. Here in Uruguay, the Pride Day is September 28th, the night mostly, and is a communist parade. If you are not left-wing, you cannot go. You will be exiled. Shame to see LGBT here has the same hate if your political views are different.
How would they know if you're left-leaning or not, and whether or not you can go to this Pride parade? That's my question. How are they finding out this stuff about people?
Is it just like wear a funky outfit and dye your hair weird color, like some piercings, and
not that you'd want to go, but
the flag.
That is very strange. What a strange thing.
Ben H says, Amala Taylor, please check out this interview on BP.
BP.
Not sure what that is, but he sent
we got
the
a
YouTube
link.
URL. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Ben. I appreciate that.
We'll have a look-see. You guys always recommending stuff.
Yep.
Sabra Winbelt says, my little sister's going to get top surgery the day after her 18th birthday. She's been wanting this for years, but my parents said no. I'm conflicted.
Well, it's her 18th birthday. She gets to do what she wants to do on that. That's wild. I don't know what I can say to that. I don't know how I would handle a situation like that. I think the only thing you really can do is allow them to make the decision that they're going to make, and be there for what they need, maybe without the unnecessary encouragement of the act itself. But that's a real rough one. That's a tough one. That's 18 years old making this decision, and that's a lot. That's never being able to breastfeed your kids ever again. That's never having the typical female aesthetic ever again, and that's, a way lesser concern than the first one I mentioned. There's just a lot of things that will be impacted with that decision being made. I would wonder why not give it a little bit of time. Just wait. The day after your 18th birthday is big.
She's been wanting it for years. It's just been the parents. That's
right.
That's so tough.
Yeah. That's tough. I've been wanting, I had wanted tattoos for years, ended up getting them, and then look back at them now and go, did I need that one? Just one. I mean, my other tattoos I really love, but then I go, did I really need to get that Black Power fist tattooed on me when I was 16 years old? Probably not. And I have a feeling that might be the same way that she feels about her breasts, and that's way worse than having a tattoo that you second guess.
Yeah, I'm honestly really sorry to hear that. I agree with Amla. I think the best you can do is just convey that, you love her and support her as a person no matter what. You'll be there, always be there for her, but also I maybe just honestly I can't support this decision, and I hope you give it more thought. But even if you do, that doesn't change how I feel about you, that I'll be here for you. But and at least that way you're on the record if it ever does dawn on her and you haven't soiled that relationship as much as it's in your power. Lazarus Leviathan Lafayette says, yay, got here for the live. Love your videos. I answered your question about horror movies and why I like them in a comment on a previous video of yours.
Oh, I'll have to go check that out. A lot of you guys were in the comments defending your love of horror movies, so I did read a lot of them. I don't know if I read yours in particular, as I wouldn't remember the name, but a lot of you were saying you like the plot structure of it, you like that it has twists and turns. Some of you were saying you just like to feel a little bit scared, the adrenaline rush, all these different things. And you said it's a creative outlet for you guys, horror movies. I get it. But also I will not be watching them. I don't know if, does Quiet Place count as a horror movie? Or is it more of a thriller? I do want to watch the new Quiet Place with Joseph Quinn.
I don't want to watch it because it's too much on the side of scary, tense, stressful that I don't really want. But I don't know. I think it's on the edge of horror thriller. I
want to watch it because I love Lupita Nyong'o and I love Joseph Quinn, and their chemistry together is just chef's kiss. I can't believe they have not dated in real life. I don't even know if I believe that they have not dated in real life. But yeah, I will watch the movie for that purpose.
In typical boomer fashion, I don't know who either of those people are.
Wow.
I'm sure I've seen them in something.
Yeah, you probably have. Stranger Things, Joseph Quinn was in Stranger Things.
Oh, okay. Well,
so you probably have.
Do you know what his character was?
I don't. You guys will know.
Okay.
I didn't watch his season.
Help us out in the chat. Meanwhile, Henry Dangit says, hey guys, I've enjoyed your videos my entire senior year of high school and can't wait for more in college. Keep it up.
Cool. Thank you. That's so cool. Oh, and congratulations on the college journey. Yeah, it is summer now. Wow.
I get out of the school calendar. And realize people are in between right now.
It's so weird because when you're young, your life is sort of I don't know, it's punctuated by when school ends and when it starts and what year you're going into and all this stuff. And then when you're out of school, it's just time just starts floating by and suddenly you walk out to the store or whatever and they have grad bash or their graduation sale and you're oh, people are going through these little motions right now in their lives.
Pride Month now.
Yeah, Pride Month. The flags start coming out. Oh, it's June.
Andre says, divorce the LGB from the TQ plus, stop woke insanity.
Yeah, I'm I don't know why why does anything need to be lumped together? Why do lesbians need to be lumped with gay people, need to be lumped with bi people? Why do trans people need to be lumped with queer people? Why does anybody need to be lumped together in a community at all? To me, it doesn't make sense. I'd get it if you were building a coalition of people to fight for a certain legal statute or a certain right or something like that. That's different, and I can understand needing to build community in in support of something, but that doesn't mean that the community needs to exist outside of its support for the thing, if that makes sense. Like, you're not automatically lumped together as some sort of monolithic force because you all are affected by some part of the law.
35 and looking good says, I'm telling you, we need to report crazies like Taraji Smollett, LOL, and I don't care what country she and the other 304s get deported to. Thanos snap.
Oh my gosh.
What
We
can you
can't
even
just
say?
go around willy-nilly deporting people, guys. It's not how it works.
Except the urine pool fetishists. We can deport them.
Yeah, or honestly, at this point, we can.
No one's gonna say
we can
no to
deport them, and we can deport the people who are in this country illegally. We'll see if we can get on that anytime soon.
At least the criminals. We'll start there.
Yes,
no one should
please.
object to that.
Yeah, asylum
Goodness.
seekers. Okay, sure, but we got criminals running around right now.
Nicodemus says, just a little support for both of you, and Amala's slightly cracked voice is nice to hear.
Thank you guys. You guys love the sick voice for some reason. You guys were given on the last stream we did. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this voice so much." I don't know what it is. I guess people. I get it. I guess I get it. But like a sick voice has a little rasp to it or something. An extra quality, I guess.
Yeah. Hope y'all aren't being weirdos. Anyway, last one I see here, 35 and looking good, says to the super chatter saying her sister is going to get top surgery on 18th birthday. You tell her that if she makes a decision and you ever want to change your mind, there's no going back ever.
Yeah, well, you would think she'd be aware of that at 18, that there is no going back. And that's like something that would be at least common knowledge on that decision. Yeah. So I don't know how helpful that statement would be, because then it sort of insinuates that you think she doesn't know that, you know, and it maybe is a little bit of a knock to her intelligence if you sort of re-explain what is a fundamental part of the surgery itself. I don't know what I would say, but yeah, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think of, like, if my sister was going through that, what would I say to my sister? Like, you know what? The decision is yours to make. If you ever want to hear my opinion, want to hear the things that I've researched or the things that I have within my wheelhouse when it comes to this, please let me know. If you ever feel like you want a second opinion, I would be happy to help you do that and sort of put the ball in their court of, like, I'm not going to throw this stuff on to you. I'm going to allow you to come to me if you ever want to know how your sister feels about you and what you're doing. And maybe you can infer what I'm feeling by the way I'm talking to you, but just know that I'm here to support you as a person and to still be a sister to you no matter what your decision is. And say, like, I think maybe these decisions should be made with as much knowledge as possible. And you can take in the knowledge that you agree with and the knowledge that you disagree with and still come to the same conclusion that you've come into now. But I would hope that on the day after your 18th birthday, when you're making this decision, you're making the most well-informed decision you can possibly make. Because I can imagine, even within the space of deciding outright you're going to get the double mastectomy and get your breast lopped off or whatever, that there's a lot of room for error in just who you pick as a surgeon, what sort of person you're going to get this procedure done. Don't we want to be the best informed we could possibly be to say without a doubt, I'm happy to make this decision, and just put the ball in their court for whether or not they ask you for help in that journey, and really empower them and give them the message that you know they're capable of making correct decisions and you know they're capable of taking in information, and just hope that they do, because that's all you can do. There's not much you can say to influence somebody who's making a decision like that, and there's not much to do that's going to necessarily change their mind, but you can change the way that they approach you when it comes to the issue.
Yeah, that's good. A couple more came in here. Gina Leon just sends a little dancing Fox Ninja emoji thing. So thank you for that.
Take it. Appreciate it.
And Casey says there's a story a while back that said big tech can influence elections 10-1. Kind of scary when you think about the ideology at Google.
Yeah, I always say, what was it? What's the documentary? The Creepy Line is what it's called. It's about Google and the amount of influence that they can have on people through the searches that you put in and how much bias they can inject into your searches. It's crazy to think about. And you know that they're using it. Like, please, they're constantly influencing us in whatever way they see fit. And once you unveil how much influence they actually have, it's crazy. Super wild.
All right, last one at the buzzer. And
Okay.
Alex is trying to get his money's worth. Let's get a voice modifier close. Also, honestly think that 18-year-olds don't know or think that it's a permanent mistake. By the way, any early boyfriend mistakes?
Any early boyfriend mistakes. Let me think about this. Any early boyfriend mistakes. I really don't have one. I don't know. I'll think about this. I'll even go and talk to him about this to see if he thinks he's made any mistakes, and I will give you his
I was
message.
thinking he was asking, like, do you have any mistakes that you made with an early boyfriend, like back in the day or anything like that? But I think he's actually meant to circle back on.
Circling back on his mistakes. I will ask him personally on your behalf whether or not he thinks he made any mistakes, and I will get back to you guys with the message on Wednesday's show. Just remember to remind me. But I'll actually write a note right now on Wednesday's show of boyfriend mistakes, and I will get back to you guys on that because I cannot think of any.
There you go. And that was all our super chats. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for watching. You requested a voice mod outro. Let me see what I've got here in terms of a voice modification.
How about this one? Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching the show. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Plus, we post videos for you guys every single day. Tomorrow's video is about... What is tomorrow's video about?
I'm blanking too.
Yes, it's about Australia and the Victorian government and some ads that they've been putting out about trans and gender diverse people. So, watch out for tomorrow's video. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. And that's all I have to say, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go take my dog for a walk. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out. Bye.